Hey, welcome to the Philosophy Podcast. I am your host, Controversy, and to my right, as per usual, my co-host, Mr.
Darren Love.
And together, we are the Philosophy Podcast. Thank you to you guys for tuning in once again this week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And yeah, we're back again once again this week, guys, with a brand new episode talking about a different topic, different subject matter, different ideas, different, as you guys know already, anyone that's watched this already, we have a main topic that we start off with, but we tend to, divert here and there occasionally, But yeah, without further ado, welcome to this week's episode, and it's time to get the show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. So what are we talking about this week, mate? What is on the agenda for this week? What is this week's hot topic?
Let's talk about communication.
Okay, communication. Communication. Voila.
It first started like a long time ago when they did smoke on the mountain.
Oh yeah, smoke signals and shit.
Communication,
They give people smoke signals and shit, you know what I mean? Just to let you know the enemy is on the way. Prepare yourselves. Get your spears, start sharpening your swords and get your spears ready. Hide your women. Hide your women and children,
There's a war coming.
Stash your valuables. Because the enemy is 3 days away. Because back in those times they used to give them signals, and sometimes they'd be like 3-4 days away. But you know what I mean? Like.
But then the next step was the phone.
Well, that's a long way.
The next step after that was the phone.
No, not the phone, mate. You're forgetting about like letters and telegrams and
I forgot about that.
All that type of shit. All that stuff came before.
Because they were sending messages.
Messages,
out, like the king would sort of like, if he thought of an idea, like he didn't want any churches, he'd send all the messages out. I don't want any churches anywhere.
Yeah.
Or something like that,
That's it. There were people that back then used to get paid. That was their job. They were messengers. So someone would pay them a certain amount of money to take a message. They would have to go on a long trip, a long voyage, whatever it takes, just to give someone a bloody letter and get paid. And then usually they would stay for like 2 or 3 days while the other person writes a letter in response. And that person would then pay them to take the letter back so that they could correspond back to the person.
That man would get paid. That poor man would get paid a lot of money for doing that.
True, and he must have seen quite a lot as well. Those people as well, going backwards and forward and travelling via like horseback or walking or whatever the case may be was at that time. You know what I mean?
But that's how it grew, really, wasn't it? Sort of like the post. Cut this bit out. I've lost my track.
We're 5 minutes in, ladies and gentlemen, and he's lost the track.
The post office, I meant.
It looks like the train's gonna crash.
The post office, I meant.
The post office.
Yeah, like that. How it evolved. That's what I was thinking.
It has evolved. It's evolved tremendously.
I did lose track.
Think about how many packages, worldwide get sent every day across the world, if you see what I mean. Yeah?
Well, it's Amazon today, isn't it?
It's not only Amazon, mate. There's so many different... You think about all the parcels that get... Obviously, a large majority of them are carried on airplanes. You know what I mean? These large cargo airplanes that are designed for transporting people's mail and things that they're sending goods and whatever else the case may be.
It's big business.
But big business, mate. Huge
Very
business. Big. Yeah.
Huge.
So that's talking about the whole communication. You know what I mean? Communication is big business, as we know today, with the internet and our mobile phones and all these different deals and packages and all these kind of things that these people sell to us and market to us. You know what I mean? To make money and for us to have internet and etc. Access to all sorts of different apps and all sorts of stuff, music, etc. You know, it's endless. You know, it's big business. You know, but communication is vital. Communication is absolutely vital in all aspects of life. You know, being on the same page when you're doing something, or you know, working, doing something, whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're doing with someone, being on the same page, you know what I mean, is very, very useful. You know, it's like you're building a house. You've got all these different people that are working under you. You're the person that's overseeing the building of the house, and you're the main person that has to communicate to them. And when you're communicating to them, they don't understand the fucking word you're saying. So how are you going to communicate to these people what they should be doing on a daily basis? Who's supposed to be doing what? Where the carpenter's supposed to be doing at this right time? What the carpenter's supposed to be doing? What the mason's supposed to be doing? What, you know what I mean, the labourer's supposed to be doing? You know what I mean, the mixer's supposed to be doing? You know, it's, you know, communication is so important.
I wouldn't learn anything if we didn't communicate, would we?
Well, it's important in every aspect of life, in all your relationships, you know what I mean, and everything. You know, you've got to, communication is very important. Like, you know, people, we have to, like we were talking about earlier, all communication is sharing information. That's all we're doing on a daily basis. Whether it be verbally, written, sent via email, sent via text, sent via WhatsApp, sent via social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're communicating. It's all communication. Over your mobile phone. Some people even still use a landline today. In some places. So, you know what I mean?
You can communicate without saying something, though.
You can. That's a good one. Great. I like that, mate. Say that again for the... Say that again for the ones who might have missed it, mate.
Sorry, I've got my mouth full.
Pause.
Yeah, you can communicate without saying anything, can't you? You know, you can communicate by your facial expressions, you know. Or some people do acting, don't they? Miming on stage in a kind of way, you know, so they do silent, and you can they can communicate by what they're doing in a kind of way, you know.
Sometimes you don't have to say anything or do anything, and you can still communicate something to someone.
Yeah.
Person can pick up on your energy, pick up on your facial expressions, pick up on the way you're carrying yourself, your demeanour, all those things, you know. Your personality, your character, you know.
I think memories communicate with us too. Like when you look at the moon, it's kind of communicating with us because it's showing the memory's showing us the light, showing us it's there by memory in a kind of way. You with me?
Yeah, yeah.
Communicating with us, just you know, the light is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
With me?
Yeah.
You know, I think everything's communicating, really. You know, in a funny way. You know, in a different. You know, I mean, it doesn't take noise to communicate, does it? You know, that's what I'm trying to say. But I mean, I think noises are the best way to communicate, isn't it? You know, sound. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was married to a girl that was born deaf. I was married with her for, we were together 13 years. And it was a very difficult relationship, you know. You got to have a communication relationship.
Yeah,
it's very important, you know. And I think that's one reason why we ended up not working out, you know, because we had a communication breakdown.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's very important, isn't it? And it's important to communicate with your children in a different way.
Yeah, you communicate differently with different people. You communicate differently with your wife to how you do with your children, to how you do with your mum or your siblings, you know what I mean, your brother, sister,
to your children,
or the way you talk to your work colleagues or your friends or whatever the case may be. There's different forms of communication and how we communicate differently on a daily basis and how we adapt our communication skills, etc. in those different kind of situations and scenarios, you know, how we adapt in the moment, you know, we just do it without even thinking, but we do it. If you see what I mean. So if you're going to talk to the doctor now, you're talking differently to the doctor than how you come and talk to me. You see what I mean? You know, it's you know, fucking coppers wanna, you know what I mean?
That's communication, isn't it?
That's communication. We know what they're communicating.
Well, everyone knows there's a police car going past, you know, or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Personally, I find that kind of thing very annoying. Personally, I think it noise pollution like that it distracts the imagination
Yeah.
a bit, you know,
Mm.
and it makes people a little bit unhappier than they should be. You know, I believe in a peaceful world, you know, and I think if the world was more peaceful, I think people would be a lot happier in a kind of way, you know,
Yeah.
noise free.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I think the children will be playing a bit more, you know, using their imaginations, you know, and happy, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, communication is so important.
To maintaining any good relationship, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what relationship it is. Communication is so important when it comes to anything. You like we were talking about earlier, when it comes to you building something or doing something with someone together, like working on a project, or you know what I mean. It's like, okay, it's like if I go to the studio now today, yeah, just using music as an example because I make music, you know what I mean, and obviously I know you make music as well, but I'm just using, you know, my, you know, as say I go to the studio today, yeah, and I've never been to the studio before in my life, and I go to the studio and I go to record my song, and I'm ready to go, but when I get there, the studio engineer doesn't speak English, and he's finding it hard to communicate with me on about how I want to do things and how I want to get things done and how I want to record it, and you know what I mean, my process and etc. You know what I mean? Then that's a problem. If you see what I mean, there's a communication barrier. But also, there's ways around communication barriers today. You can go online and you can have Google Translate. There's also apps that have been created today where two people can stand together holding a phone, and one person can speak into it and in their language, yeah, and then the voice, once it's gone into the phone, it reads what the person has said, yeah, and then on the loudspeaker, it repeats the message into the other person's language.
Wow.
If you see what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So people can you know what I mean, and not only that, but there's, you know, today in this day and age, there's all sorts of, you know, there's you don't always have to communicate verbally to communicate. If you see what I mean, you know, you can use, like some people that might not be able to talk, you could use pictures. If you're looking after someone, let's say, who's not able to talk, and you want to ask them what they want for lunch, and you already got a basic idea of what their favourite meals are because their family might have told you, but you don't really know what they want to have that day, you can have different picture cards of different meals that you know they like and say, oh, you know, do you want this meal today? They could nod.
Yeah.
Or if they're not able to nod, they could write it down. Yes, yes, no, you know. So yeah, there's different ways, you know, there's, you know, we can, you know, communication barriers can be overcome. You know, it's just finding the right medium, if you see what I mean. What, you know, what the right medium, you know, for that barrier is at the time. You know, whatever the circumstances, you know.
So we've all got, you know, we've said it in previous episodes, I know that, but like we've all got different paths. But it's like if you learn how to play guitar,
yeah,
since you're 5 years of age, you know, and you've been doing it every night, whatever, you're a good guitarist now, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been learning piano since I was 5. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then we both get together, and I could teach you piano, and you could teach me guitar now.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, and I could quite. Because once you know something, you could teach somebody quite quickly that skill.
Yeah.
As long as you spend a few hours, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
I know it's taken me a long time to learn. Alright. That's communication.
That's communication. Yeah. But that communication is, you know what I mean, is it is what it is. Never mind. Yeah, mate. So back to what you were saying, mate.
Well,
you could teach people that skill quite quickly.
I think by sharing our past, we learn together.
Yeah.
I think that's how we learn, really, by communicating, really, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like wars, really. I think like they're created because they're not communicating correctly or something like that.
Sometimes, yeah.
You know.
Or of a communication breakdown.
Yeah.
Where they can't agree.
Yeah.
So they decide that they have to do something ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, communication isn't always the easiest thing for every person. You know, especially like if you're introverted, like myself, I'm quite introverted, right? But I'm lucky that even though I'm introverted, I can be extroverted when I need to be. So when I'm working, when I'm with my wife, my kids, my friends, family, I can be extroverted even though I'm generally as a person quite introverted, if you see what I mean, quite, you know, more kind of to myself, kind of in my thoughts and just, you know, peaceful and just, you know, doing my thing kind of thing, you know. But yeah, I'm lucky in that regard, but not for everyone, not everyone's the same. Some people find it hard to communicate too sometimes too, because, you know, some people deal with certain issues, like some people might deal with anxiety, where they find themselves like socially awkward, if you see what I mean. When they're in social situations, they feel really out of place and really like not happy and scared and like unsure and like anxious and, you know, paranoid, and, you know, so they might not find communication that, you know, that great because they're uncomfortable, if you see what I mean. Like, so that's just a random example, you know, I can think of, but being hypothetical, but yeah, not everyone can, you know, finds it hard. So I think we all have to work on our communication skills, you know, because sometimes like we might be thinking something in our head, like even with me and my wife, like even though we communicate quite well, I think even every once in a blue moon there'd be something that I might have done that I might not have said to her, like it's already been done. So like, you know, like a few days later she'd be like, oh I thought, you know, you said such and such, you know, you said something about such and such or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, it's already done. She'd be like, oh, you know, how come you didn't tell me? I was like, oh, you know, not that I didn't, you know, mean to not tell you. It's just that I just got on with it and did it and forgot to tell you, kind of thing. You know, I didn't communicate. If you see what I mean, that I'd done it. If it, you know, it's already taken care of. You know, but yeah, like, you know, so, you know, just a small instance like that, like communication can be is important. You know.
I think we communicate by the way we look as well. You know, like if you see people walking past, sometimes you might see somebody that looks, you know, you can tell they've had a drink.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
I like that one. That's good.
well, you can sort of tell by people's appearance a bit by if they're feeling anxious or angry. You know,
Their body
looking at them.
language is
Yeah, body language
communicates to you.
communicates. You know,
Yeah.
so that's like I say, it's a silent communication, really.
Oh, but
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
invisible. Well, it's not invisible. You can see it.
It's here, yeah.
You know, but again, it's important to sort of see the expressions of the spirit of whoever, how they're behaving in a kind of way, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, most people I see when they're walking down the streets look quite relaxed and happy, you know. But I think a lot of people are putting on their smiles today, to be honest with you. You know, when they go outside, they're going like that, you know.
Well, in all honesty, mate, I think a lot of people do that to a degree, mate. Like, you know, people just...
They don't like going out, a lot of people now.
It's like, even me, like, if I was going through some shit in my life, I'm not talking to anyone and telling anyone about that. Like, I'm just getting on with it, and, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. I'm getting on with it and getting through it and overcoming it and moving forward. Like, that's always the goal. Keep moving forward, you know? Like, you know, like... I'm not that, like, for me personally, I'm just that way inclined, if you see what I mean. Like, if I've got like something going on in my life, whatever it may be, I just, you know, I'm not the type to, like, there is some people like that have the need to have to go around and tell everyone what they're going through, if you see what I mean. Like, it might be women at work and stuff that come to work and tell all their personal business and stuff like that. It's just like, you know, no one needs to know all your really like in-depth personal business, love. Like, you know, there's some stuff that you should keep personal, keep private. Like, you know, well, that's just me anyway, you know, like, if I've got stuff going on in my life, I'm not telling anyone about that. I'm just dealing with it, getting over it. I'm a man, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been a man since I was like 15, 16 years old, almost, I can say, you know what I mean? I was really a man. I was working at my own man from 15, 16 years old, so, you know, it's like, you know, so, yeah. But yeah, yeah, like I was saying, it's very important to work on your communication skills. Very important in terms of like employment.
Takes time.
Especially if you're seeking employment or you work in a job that requires you to interact with people and converse with people, you know what I mean, constantly on a daily basis, then obviously, you know what I mean, you should always be trying to improve your communication skills, you know. But yeah, you know, you got to stay on point in that regard. You know, we're all guilty sometimes of not communicating with our loved ones or our friends enough, or whatever the case may be, because we might be too busy in our lives and we've got too much shit going on because of the pressures of all, you know, we've all got from living in modern day society. You know. But yeah, but we still have to remember to communicate. It is important to remember to tell our loved ones that we love them, communicate to them that we love them, even though we might not get to see them or talk to them as frequently as we would like to. You know, going back to communication. You know.
Yeah, sometimes I think there's too much communication going on in the world, and people get confused.
Yeah.
You know, like there's lots of different papers you can buy, for instance. You know, newspapers.
Yeah.
And you know, so depending on what newspaper you buy,
yeah,
you're getting the, you know, because I believe like a lot of it's they misinform you. You know,
yeah.
it's not the right information, and that's why I find it a bit people reading information that's not true. So they got information in their head that's useless, really, and they wasted their time in the kind of way, you know. And I've always been I've never bought a newspaper in my life, by the way. Never. You know, it's been one of my laws, you know.
Yeah.
Because I knew that you know, a lot of it's rubbish.
Yeah.
Really, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I've never read one story in one, you know, just in the kind of way, you know, kept away from it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's.
I'm one of those type of people too, really, mate. I've never ever really read newspapers in my life, like, you know, if you see what I mean.
Like,
like,
some people.
If I wanted to know something, I would look it up. If you see what I mean, I never, you know. I know some people subscribe to that, and it's kind of like a daily
religion,
a ritual, and kind of like habit to go and buy the paper every morning, you know.
Well, some
sit there with their cup of coffee or cup of tea and drink their paper and have a you know, smoke a fag or whatever, you know. But yeah, you know, it's not.
But they're only reading what somebody else has written, you know, and then printed. Sometimes they bent it round, you know, stories, you know. And so basically, you might be. Most of it's a lot of rubbish.
A lot of it, mate, is a lot of bullshit, mate. There's
really
a lot of bullshit stories in there, and you're thinking like, there's so much more important stuff that you guys should be reporting on and talking about that's going on a global scale. And you're telling us about someone's garden and why their crops are blooming and you know what I mean. That, you know, got a huge article on page 4 on why this person, you know what I mean.
You know, everyone's trying to make money, aren't they?
It's like put some, you know, just like not for me.
Should be like good news about, shouldn't there? Because we were talking about that before.
Yeah,
you know,
all
like,
the news is always bad news.
It's all
bad
press.
news.
You know, like. I'm like Josh, you know.
In my eyes, that's bad communication. But yeah.
Like say, like I'm positive you know, I try to be positive every moment. Like you too, Josh, don't you? I think most people try to be positive.
Yeah.
And then they put bad, negative news on all the time. You know, and that's that. You know, they could, like we said before, it could be possible that they could put the good news on. You know. Like,
well, even if they're going to show some of the bad shit, at least have a balance. Say, oh, this is all the bad shit that's happened this week, or you know what I mean, or whatever, and then say, oh, this is all the good stuff that's happened as well. Look at this man just rescued these children from a house that was on fire. You know what I mean? And or this person just saved this young girl from drowning. She fell into the swimming pool unattended and almost drowned. This guy dived in and risked his life and saved her life. You know what I mean? Or like all this type of stuff. Or
little Karen,
Karen,
7-year-old Karen, she did a masterpiece on the piano or something.
Oh yeah, or something like
you know,
that.
Something like that.
No,
you know,
something that's amazing, something that's like
amazing.
uplifting, and not just hello, good evening, dun dun dun. You know what I mean? This is all the shit that's happening, all the bad shit, fear. You know what I mean? All the time, like, you know.
It's like the floods, right? That they report here and there. Right, floods have been. I know that they've been around every decade for thousands of years. You know, and ducks love floods. You know, they love them.
Yeah.